I never thought I'd be the guy to catch his wife cheating right before the wedding, but that's exactly what happened. Her name was Emily, and she was supposed to be the one. We'd been together for almost 3 years, and I genuinely thought we had something real. I mean, sure, every relationship has its issues, but I never suspected she'd do something so low. We'd been planning the wedding for months, and everything seemed perfect, or so I thought. It started subtly at first. Small things I brushed off. She'd be on her phone more than usual, but I figured she was just stressed or maybe talking to her friends. Then she started canceling plans last minute, claiming work or family emergencies, but her excuses always felt off. She'd be bitchy sometimes, snapping at me for no reason or acting distant. I caught her lying about things a few times, but she'd always deny it, get defensive, and call me paranoid. "You're overthinking," she'd say, rolling her eyes and dismissing my concerns. I told myself I was just imagining things, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. The real red flag went off about 2 weeks ago. I found her phone lying face down on the couch, and I happened to glance at it while passing by. Something made me pick it up, a gut feeling. When I looked, I saw a string of texts that made my stomach turn. They weren't just friendly or flirty, they were explicit. The kind of conversations you have with someone you're secretly having sex with. My heart started pounding. I read about how she missed him, how she couldn't wait to see him again, how they'd meet at our house, and how she told him she loved him. My mind reeled. I wasn't stupid, I knew exactly who she was talking to. It was Jake, her best man, my best man, the guy I trusted the most. They'd been close for years. I don't know how I missed it, but somehow I had. I kept reading, hoping I'd be wrong, hoping this was just some joke, but it was. The texts weren't just flirtatious, they were downright damning. She'd been lying to me for months. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I was supposed to marry in a few days, was cheating on me with my best man, right under my nose. The worst part, I didn't find out because she slipped up or because I caught her in the act. I saw the evidence on her phone, and that was enough. It hit me like a punch to the gut. I stared at those messages for a long time, feeling this mixture of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. How could she do this to me? How could she betray everything we had built? She'd been so bitchy lately, so cold, and I now realize it was because she was hiding this secret. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and honestly like I'd been an idiot for not seeing it sooner. That night I didn't sleep. I stayed up, replaying everything, feeling like my world was crumbling. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I also knew I needed a plan. I couldn't just blow up everything without thinking it through. But inside I was boiling. The thought of her with Jake, knowing they'd been sneaking around, meeting at our house, having sex, everything. It all felt so sickening. I kept picturing her in my bed, lying, pretending, hiding this affair from me. And the worst part, I still loved her. Or at least I thought. I did, but now that love was turning into something darker. Revenge, anger, a desire to make her pay for what she'd done. I'm really not sure how I'm going to handle this yet. Part of me just wants to walk away, cut her out completely. But another part wants to make her suffer, to show her what betrayal feels like. I don't know if I'll forgive her or if I'll just tear everything apart. What I do know is that I've got to face this head on, no matter how much it hurts. And that's what I'm planning to do. The morning after I found those texts, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind kept circling around her words, her lies, the way she'd been so bitchy and dismissive lately. All of it suddenly made sense. That bitchy attitude, the sudden coldness, the way she'd snap at me over small stuff. She was hiding something, and now I knew exactly what it was. I looked at her while she was still asleep, her face peaceful, innocent even. But I knew the truth behind that facade. I didn't want to wake her up right away. I needed time to think, to come up with a plan. I went to the living room, poured myself a drink, and stared at my phone. I felt so many things at once: anger, betrayal, sadness, even a strange sense of numbness. I wanted to believe it wasn't real, that somehow I'd misunderstood, but I knew better. Those messages didn't lie. I decided I'd confront her when she woke up. I had to. I needed her to see I wasn't some naive fool who'd be duped forever. But I also knew I couldn't just come out swinging. No, I needed to be calm, collected. I needed information. So I started digging. I looked through her phone more thoroughly, checked her emails, her social media. I wanted everything, every secret, every lie, every meeting she'd had with Jake. It felt like I was unraveling a web of lies I had no idea she'd spun around us. When she finally got up, she looked at me with that familiar smirk, like she was already scheming something. I saw it in her eyes, that bitchy, manipulative glance. I knew she was trying to act like everything was fine, like I was overreacting. That's when I decided I'd call her out. Not right then. No, I wanted to catch her in a lie first, get her to slip up. I knew she'd be lying, but I didn't care. I wanted her to know I wasn't blind anymore. So I made sure I had everything I needed. Her phone, her messages, the emails she'd sent to Jake. I even took pictures of the incriminating texts. I figured I'd need proof when I finally confronted her. I planned on catching her in a moment of weakness to see her squirm. I wanted her to hear that I knew everything, that I wasn't going to back down. That day, I watched her carefully. She was still acting bitchy, snapping at me over small things, but I caught her glancing at her phone more than once, nervously hiding it when I looked her way. Every little thing she did was suspicious. She'd go to the bathroom and stay there for a long time, maybe to text him. She'd leave her phone face down when I was nearby. I felt a surge of anger every time I saw her acting normal, knowing she was secretly meeting Jake, having sex with him in our own house, lying to my face. The emotional roller coaster kept building. I was furious, but I also felt a deep sadness that she'd throw away everything we had. I thought about the wedding, the future we'd planned, the promises we'd made. All of it shattered now. I felt like a fool, someone who had trusted the wrong person, and I was starting to hate her for it. Part of me wanted to just walk away, leave everything behind. But another part, the darker part, wanted revenge. I wanted her to feel the pain of betrayal, the way I was feeling now, but multiplied. I didn't have a clear plan yet, but I knew I had to be smart. I had to turn this around on her, make her regret ever messing with me. She thought she was sneaky, that she could get away with it because she was bitchy and manipulative. Well, I was about to show her how wrong she was. I decided I'd wait until she was alone again, then confront her with everything I had. I'd lay it all out in front of her, proof, my anger, my heartbreak. I wanted her to see it written on my face. I was done being played. I didn't care if she tried to deny it or lie her way out of it. I was prepared for her excuses, her bullshit, whatever she threw my way, because I knew the truth now and I was ready to make her pay for it. That afternoon, I kept myself busy, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking on thin ice. Every time I heard her moving around the house, I felt a spike of adrenaline. I was ready to confront her, but I also knew I needed to be strategic. I didn't want her to catch me off guard, so I made sure I had everything in place. All her messages, all her lies, I had it all. I also secretly set up a voice recorder on my phone, just in case she slipped up or admitted anything I could use later. She was still acting bitchy, snapping at me over nothing, trying to dismiss my questions or act like I was paranoid. But I could see through her facade. I saw the way she'd glance nervously at her phone, the way she'd hide her face when she thought I wasn't looking. Every little thing confirmed what I already knew. She'd been lying for weeks, maybe longer. Later that evening, I finally decided to go for it. I called her into the living room under the pretense of talking. She sauntered in, her usual smirk on her face, but I could see the flicker of nervousness in her eyes. I pulled out her phone, placed it on the coffee table, and looked right at her. She immediately tried to act innocent, brushing her hair back, pretending she had no idea what I was about to do. I looked at her dead serious. "Emily, I found your messages," I said calmly but firmly. "The ones you've been hiding, the ones where you're fucking Jake, don't even try to deny it." Her face instantly turned red and she started to lie, her voice getting bitchy. "Oh, come on, Jason, I don't know what you're talking about. You're overreacting. These are just texts, maybe a bit flirty, but it's not what you think. I love you, you're just being paranoid." She was so good at lying, I almost believed her for a second, but I had all the proof. I pushed the phone toward her, showing her the screenshots. She stared at them, her mouth opening and closing like a fish, trying desperately to come up with an excuse. "It's not what it looks like," she hissed. "Jake and I are just friends. We're not having sex. It's just stupid messages. You're taking this way out of proportion." Her words made my stomach churn. I was furious, but I kept my voice steady. "You're lying, Emily. I saw the texts. I saw the way you meet him at our house, the way you lie about everything. How long has this been going on?" She crossed her arms, sneering. "Look, Jason, I don't owe you any explanations. Maybe I was just bored, maybe I was stupid, but I'm not cheating on you, you're just jealous and insecure, that's all this is." I felt my fists clench. It was all bullshit. I knew she'd been sneaking around for months, probably even before we got engaged. The way she deflected, the way she tried to act like everything was fine, it all fell apart in that moment. I was hot with rage, but I forced myself to stay calm. I wanted her to think I was in control, but inside I was boiling. I decided I'd had enough. I told her she could pack her shit and leave, that I didn't want to see her face again until she was ready to be honest. She stormed out, bitching and crying, calling me all kinds of names, crazy, paranoid, jealous. But I didn't care. Because I knew the truth now, and that made me feel like I'd taken back some control, even if it was just a small victory. After she left, I sat there for a long time, processing everything. I was shattered, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized I'd been blind, trusting her blindly for too long. All the signs were there and I just refused to see them. Now I had proof and I had options. Do I fight for her? Do I tell her to leave and never come back? Do I confront Jake? All those questions swirled in my mind, but one thing was clear. My trust was gone, and I wasn't going to let her lie her way out of this one. I felt a cold emptiness inside, but also a strange sense of resolve. Whatever. I decided next it was going to be on my terms. I wasn't just some sucker anymore. I was taking control of the situation, and she was going to regret ever betraying me. The night was the worst. Once Emily left, silence settled over the house like a heavy fog. I didn't sleep. I just sat on the couch, staring at the empty doorway she had just walked through, feeling a mixture of anger, heartbreak, and a strange numbness. I kept replaying everything in my head, the way she lied, the texts, her bitchy attitude, her sneering denial. It all felt like a bad nightmare I couldn't wake up from. As the hours dragged on, I kept thinking about what I should do next. Part of me wanted to just cut her out completely, block her, delete her from my life, pretend none of this ever happened. But another part, dark, vengeful, wanted to make her suffer. I wanted her to feel what I was feeling, betrayal so deep it cut through to my bones. That's when I started planning my next move. I decided to dig even deeper. I went through her phone again, checking her social media, her emails, any other places she might have left clues. That's when I found out she'd been meeting Jake not just at our house but at a hotel nearby, sometimes late at night. I didn't even need to see everything. Just knowing she'd been sneaking around like that made my blood boil. She wasn't just cheating. She was sneaking around behind my back, lying to my face, destroying everything I thought was real. I knew I couldn't confront her again without solid proof. I had to be smart. I set up a hidden camera in the living room, one I could monitor remotely. I wanted to catch her red-handed, maybe even record her admitting to everything. I didn't trust her anymore, and I wanted to have the evidence to end this once and for all. That night, I stayed up, staring at my phone, watching the camera feed. I saw her come back home around 2 a.m. looking exhausted, trying to hide her face. She seemed nervous, maybe worried I'd be waiting for her. I felt this sick satisfaction knowing I had her on camera sneaking back into our house. The fact that she thought she was so clever, so sneaky, just made it worse. She was obsessed with hiding everything, but I had her now. In the early hours, she finally fell asleep on the couch, her phone still in her hand. I quietly moved in, took the phone without her noticing, and scrolled through more messages. There was even more proof that she'd been lying to me about everything, that she'd been unfaithful for months. I felt the weight of it in my chest. I was furious, betrayed, and yet strangely, a little relieved because I finally knew the truth. I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't stay here pretending everything was okay, but I wasn't ready to end it yet. I wanted her to see that I knew, that I had all the evidence, and that she couldn't lie her way out of this. I decided I'd wait until morning, confront her again, and this time I'd lay everything on the table. I'd tell her I knew about her affair, show her the recordings, and see how she'd react. As I lay there in the dark, I felt a strange mix of emotions: anger, betrayal, heartbreak, but also a sense of clarity. I'd been blind for so long, but now I could finally see her for what she really was. And I knew I'd never be the same again. Whatever happened next, I was done being the fool. I was done being played. This was my house, my life, and I was going to make sure she paid for what she'd done. Morning came way too fast, but I didn't sleep much. I was swirling with thoughts, mostly about how I was going to confront her, what I was going to say, and how I was going to make her understand that I knew everything. I had that footage, those texts, all of her lies laid bare. It was time to end this game she was playing with my life. When she finally woke up, I could see the nervousness in her eyes. I knew she'd been anxious all night, probably worried I'd be waiting for her with more questions. I decided I'd give her a chance to come clean. No more sneaky confrontations. This time I'd be direct, calm, but firm. I called her into the living room and she sat down, trying to act nonchalant like she wasn't trembling inside. I pulled out my phone, still running the live feed from the camera, and started showing her the footage. Her face froze for a moment, then she started to sputter, trying to deny everything all over again. "You think I don't know what's going on, Emily? I've seen the messages, the videos, everything. You've been sneaking around with Jake, meeting him at our house, at hotels, lying to my face every step of the way. How long has this been going on?" She stared at me, her bitchy attitude now replaced with a mixture of shock and anger. "You don't know what you're talking about," she snapped. "You're just jealous, you're insecure, this is all just your paranoia. You're making things up because you don't want to face the truth, that I'm not perfect, that I'm human and I made a mistake." I couldn't believe her words. Her denial was so blatant, so full of bullshit. I was sick of her lying, of her trying to play the victim. I looked directly at her, my voice steady but furious. "A mistake. You cheated on me at my own fucking house with my best man. You lied to my face, told me everything was perfect, and then I find out. You've been meeting him in secret, having sex with him, lying about everything. How do you even sleep at night?" Her eyes narrowed, still trying to throw me off. "You don't know what you're talking about. I told you Jake and I are just friends. We didn't do anything serious. It's just sex, Jason. It's nothing, and I don't see why you're making such a big deal out of it." That's when I snapped. I'd had enough of her bullshit, her manipulative games. I pulled out the proof, screenshots, recordings, everything I'd collected, and laid it on the table, physically and emotionally. "Look at this," I said, voice trembling with rage. "This is everything. You've been lying for months. You've been sneaking around, meeting him at our house, lying about where you've been, and now you're trying to pretend it's nothing. Well, I've had enough, Emily." She looked at the evidence, her face flushing red. She opened her mouth to lie again, but I cut her off. "No more, I'm done. I'm not staying with a wife who cheats, lies, and manipulates me. You're done here. Pack your shit and leave, because I'm not taking this anymore." She started crying, screaming at me, calling me all sorts of names, crazy, jealous, insecure. But I didn't care. I was past caring. I wanted her gone, out of my house, out of my life. I told her she could have her affair, her sex with Jake, whatever she wanted, just not with me anymore. I'd rather be alone than live with her lies and betrayal. She stormed out, still yelling, but I stayed, feeling a strange sense of relief mixed with heartbreak. I knew the pain wouldn't go away overnight, but I finally had clarity. She was a liar, a cheat, and a manipulator, and I was done being her fool. As she drove off, I sat back, staring at the empty house. The silence was deafening, but for the first time in a long while, it felt like a weight had been lifted. I realized I'd been blind for too long, but now I could finally see her for what she was. I knew I wouldn't forget this pain, but I also knew I was done forgiving. From now on, I was taking control of my life, and I'd never let anyone do this to me again. In the days that followed, everything changed. I cleared out her belongings, told my friends what had happened, and started to rebuild. It wasn't easy. The house felt emptier than ever, and sometimes I'd catch myself thinking about her, about what we'd lost, about how she'd lied to me for so long. But with each passing day, the pain started to fade, replaced by a kind of bitter clarity. I realized that I had been so blind, so eager to believe in her, that I ignored all the signs. That betrayal cut deep, but it also opened my eyes to what really matters: honesty, loyalty, and respect. Looking back, I see now that this whole experience taught me more than I ever wanted to know. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to fix. I learned that people can lie so convincingly, even those closest to us. That manipulation can hide behind a bitchy attitude and a pretty face. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I survived her betrayal, and in a way I'm better for it. I've stopped blaming myself for her actions. She chose to cheat, to lie, to deceive. That's on her. I've started dating again, slowly but surely. It's not easy trusting again, but I don't want to live in hatred or bitterness. I want to believe that somewhere out there there's someone who will treat me with respect and honesty, someone who won't betray me like Emily did. But I swear I'll never let my guard down again. Not completely. Because once you've been burned, you learn to protect yourself better. To anyone out there who's dealing with betrayal, I'll say this: it hurts like hell. There's no sugarcoating it. But you are not alone, and it's okay to feel angry, sad, or even lost. Allow yourself to grieve, but don't let it consume you. Take control of your life. Cut out the toxic people. Focus on your healing. Because in the end, you're the one who decides what your future looks like. Betrayal hurts, but it also teaches us our worth. Don't forget that. I've learned the hard way that some people are just not worth your pain. And as much as it stings now, I know I'll come out of this stronger. This isn't the end of my story. It's just a chapter, one I'll never forget, but one I refuse to let define me. I'm moving forward, and I'm doing it on my own terms. Because the only person who can truly heal a broken heart is yourself.